Welcome to the Elite Life with Trisha and Kylie. This is where we'll teach you how to develop grit, give yourself grace, and succeed in real estate. So let's dive in.
What's up, Elite Life fam? I'm totally not reading the introduction that Trisha wrote for this podcast.
Thanks. That's cool. I just do that for fun.
All that hard work down the drain. No, I am Kylie, and with me is Trish the Dish Dork. This whole thing is just now becoming you guys listening to the nicknames that we make up for ourselves, which I'm sure is illegal. I've been so excited for this episode. I'm so pumped to hear this story because I was looking at your notes and just the bullet points that you put here to remind yourself of what happened so that you could share it with us is absolutely hilarious. So Trisha's going to share with us the last, 3 weeks of chaos, craziness, blessings, tears. So much has happened in your life in the last 3 weeks. I'm already exhausted and I haven't even heard the whole story, but I know that at the end we're going to see and our listeners are going to hear that no matter what happens, no matter how hard things seem, when you have a great opportunity or your kids have a great opportunity, you just say yes and trust the process and trust that everything is figureoutable and that you can get it done. Trisha's not a witch, a warlock. She doesn't have a magic wand. There's nothing special about Trisha.
I know.
She has all the same stuff that you have, and she's constantly reminding me, but I'm going to stop jabbing away and I'm going to let you chit chat.
Yeah, no, thank you. No, I was excited to share this with everybody because when I got done with my first set of flights, I kind of was thinking about it. I'm like, when somebody gets an opportunity like we got, I think a lot of people immediately go into why that won't work, right?
Yeah,
and why it won't work. Yeah, here's a laundry list of excuses of why there's no possible way that we can do this. And instead, it's just the way my brain is wired. I'm like, okay, here's an opportunity. Let me start making plans.
Yeah.
So I named it Stop Making Excuses and Start Making Plans because I realized you're usually hardwired to think of all the ways it could go wrong instead of immediately going to how you can make it right. So what had happened was
Once upon a time.
Yeah. So 3 weeks ago, I was just going through my normal morning routine. It was Thursday. It's important it's Thursday because all of these things transpired in a matter of 2 days.
Yeah. 48 hours. My life has changed.
Yeah. In 48 hours, our whole lives got tumped upside down. So I came downstairs and Trent's like, hey, Mom, I got this call from a coach in Canada and he wants me to come play junior hockey and it may be nothing, he's like, it may be nothing, but my coach is going to talk to him and my advisor's going to talk to him and we're going to see what's going on. And I'm like, okay, I start asking him all these questions like, where is it in Canada? Where is it? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you know what, Mom, let's see what happens first and then we'll talk about it. I'm like, okay. So maybe an hour goes by, right? And it's 10 a.m. and all of a sudden he comes and he's all excited. He's like, Mama, we did it. We made it. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm going to go play junior A hockey in Canada. And I'm like, okay, where in Canada? And he's like, well, it's in this place called Red Lake and it's in Ontario. And so in my mind, I'm like, oh, I've heard of Ontario. It's probably not too far. And I get on our handy dandy Google and it is 19 hours north of us, Red Lake, Ontario. So it's a 19-hour drive. You go straight up the state of Michigan, straight across the entire UP, and then straight up Minnesota, Wisconsin, all the way into Canada, and you just keep going and going and going. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. And he goes, let's get on a Zoom with this coach. And I'm like, well, when? And he's like in an hour. And I'm like, okay. And so we get on a Zoom with the coach and love the coach. He's saying everything right. We're excited about Trent. We want him to come play. Super pumped. And this is the next level. This is what he's been working his whole life for. And I'm like, so, you guys are 19 hours from us. When do you want us to have him there? And he's like, oh, you can take your time. Just have him here by Monday.
Mind you, it's Thursday.
It's Thursday. You want me to pack my child and rearrange my entire life and have him 20 hours north by Monday. And it's Thursday. It's Thursday afternoon. And he's like, yeah, take your time. And I'm like laughing, like maniacally laughing. Like, what do you mean take my time? Like, we had our office Christmas party was already booked for Saturday. So you're talking like, okay, hair, nails, shop, like everything has to be done. So literally, like, we made a time plan. Like, I got off the Zoom and Trent's like, what do you think? And like, I'm like, this isn't even about me. Like, this is your goal. This is your dream.
Yeah.
Like, we have to make it work. Right. I was like, so we like sat down, we made a time plan. I'm like, okay, tomorrow, go say goodbye to your team. We'll make a list of everything you need for shopping. We'll get, everything switched over. So like, that's exactly what we did. Like Friday, I had a couple appointments I tied up for work, got everything ready for the Christmas party. I was still doing cards for the awards.
Right.
I canceled my makeup and hair appointment. I'm like, guess I'm doing that myself.
You looked fabulous.
Thank you. So we got everything ready for the Christmas party, packed all that stuff up, started getting Trent all squared away, saying goodbye to everybody. Saturday, woke up bright and early, got everything, in order for our party, took Trent shopping. I had to get him like a parka. So just so everybody understands, in Red Lake, Ontario, the morning that I left, it was negative 41 degrees, minus 41 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah. So freeze your face off.
Yeah.
So we pack up like all of his clothes, all of
every
his
blanket and thermal underwear that he has.
Yeah. We did all the shopping, got everything done. We did the Christmas party. That was in Livonia. I live in Clarkston, so we had to drive an hour over there, do the whole party, get out the awards, come home. It's like midnight by the time we get home. I packed some crap in a backpack, woke up like 4 hours later to start this drive on Sunday morning to Canada, because it basically takes 2 days. So Saturday, we were driving for 20 hours, and everybody's like, so how was the ride? And I'm like, well, it was good till it wasn't. So we're driving up through Michigan. That goes super smooth. We start going through the UP. A deer runs in front of my car and tries to commit suicide at a high rate. So like, okay, we're up. Drive all the way through there. We get to customs at around like 1 o'clock in the morning. And they're like, okay, all the regular questions. And it's so funny because like when we go through customs in Detroit, it's like this big ordeal, right? It's like all these booths and all these people. Well, when you go to customs at the top of Minnesota going into Canada, there's nothing around. Like it's like one window and like these two things on each side. Like it's nothing official because there's nothing there. You're in the middle of the wilderness. There's nothing anywhere around. So she's like asking us these questions and I'm like, yeah, he's going to be there until spring, summer when the season's over. So then they're like, oh, you need to come in. And I'm like, okay. So we come in and they're like, you're going to be a permanent or like a foreign national. You got to have a foreign national something or other. So again, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. So we're like trying to call his coach to get a letter from the coach saying he's going to be coming and staying there and like what date he's leaving. And it's like, yeah. And I'm like, we're exhausted. Like I had been driving for 20 hours.
Yeah.
So I've been driving for 20 hours because you got to stop, you got to eat, you got to get gas. So even though the ride itself is 19 hours, it's going to take
straight shot.
Yeah. It's going to take you more than that because you got to make stops, right? Yeah. So we're in customs and it's hilarious because this like lady was in there and she's like getting in trouble for not going in the customs spot. So like she's super old and crazy and it's 1 a.m. and that chaos is going on. And this place is so small. They're like, oh, we got to hook up a printer and then we got to find some paper. And so they like printed him. For anybody who's going to Canada for an extended period of time, just so you know, they have to like basically print you this official document. It almost looks like a birth certificate, like raised sale and everything. So we were in there for like well over an hour. Yeah. And we're exhausted. Like I haven't slept in days because of the Christmas party and packing and all of that stuff. And we're there forever. So then of course, like me and Trent are getting angry at this point, right? Like we're tired. We're sick of sitting here. We're getting like chippy at each other over stupid stuff. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So we finally get out of there. And we get over the border and we're like in this like really dark, there was like some houses around, but there wasn't a lot around. And all of a sudden our car, like I stop at the stop sign and our car gets surrounded by deer. I'm like, what is going on? And Trent's like, drive. And I'm like, I can't drive. And there was like a deer standing on the side of my window, a deer standing on the side of Trent's window, and a deer standing in front of our car. And like 2 more deer, like they were surrounding us. No joke. And they're like right by our windows. And I'm like, am I just exhausted? Am I imagining this? There's deer by our windows.
You're like,
so weird.
I'm so tired, I'm hallucinating.
Yeah, I was like, what is this craziness? So like finally like they go about their business and I get on the road and I'm driving through Canada and it's like 198 miles to our hotel and I'm bone tired. Like I really am imagining things. I'm trying to keep my eyes open. It starts snowing. I can't see because it's snowing. There's like 1,000,000 feet of snow all around. You're like in the mountains. There's nothing for 198 miles.
So
nothing.
literally like Donner Party
Yeah,
status.
yeah, nothing. And like I'm so tired. I'm like, I want to pull over and sleep. I can't pull over and sleep because we'll freeze to death because there's nothing around and we'll run out of gas. So I keep driving. For the 198 miles, which takes forever. And we get to the hotel. The door's locked to the hotel. So I have to call the hotel like, hey, you got to let me in. And they're like, oh, we don't get many late people. Like we're in the middle of Canada. We just locked the door. So he lets me in, gives me the key. I open the door to our hotel. And like by now it was like, I don't know, 3-4 o'clock in the morning or something like that. It's so late. Like I'm just dead. I open the door. There's no beds in our hotel room.
What do you mean?
They were like taking them apart or something. There's like a bed frame against this wall and then like 2 mattresses and a bag of towels on the floor. Like the room, that's it. Like there's no beds. The room is not set up. I like snap a picture. I go back down to the front desk guy and I just like show him my phone. And he's like, oh, it's not supposed to look like that.
Oh
and I was like,
God.
no, it's not. And I'm just like, what is going on in this
You're
world?
like, I need someone to lay down right now. I'm going to end up in prison. Someone give me a bed now.
Seriously. So I finally, we get in our
they put
new
you in
room.
another room.
They put us in another room. And Trent's like, Mom, it's cold in here. And I'm like, I can't feel anything. Like, I just need to get in this bed and close my eyes.
Your body's going into shock.
Yeah. So I get in a bed and I close my eyes. And I probably only had my eyes closed for a few minutes because I'm like freezing. Like everything settles in and I'm freezing. And so then I'm up in the dark, like trying to look for the thermostat and I can't find it. And I'm like, so I end up having to turn all the lights on in this hotel room to find the thermostat. And it was like freezing cold, like 50 some degrees. And we're in the middle of like nowhere, Canada. And so I finally get to sleep for like a couple minutes. It was not long at all. We get up and I'm like, okay, gotta take a shower. And all of a sudden the team is texting him like, we need you here for practice. Now we did not plan on him practicing on Monday. We just were gonna get him there and unpack and like that was fine. Well, now they want him to practice. So now we're like in hurry mode. And I'm like, listen, like we're still 2.5 hours away from like the location. We still, got to get you unpacked and meet your billet mom. Like we've been rushing for the last 3 days. Like we can only drive so fast, you know?
Right.
So the deal was we had to get him to the rink for practice by 1 o'clock. And so it's like we're driving and we get in his car and I'm like trying to do the windshield wiper fluid because, we've been driving forever for days and no windshield wiper fluid will come out. Well,
Frozen.
It's frozen. So we stop at a Tim Hortons in good Canada fashion and I have one of my handy dandy shaker bottles and I'm like, I'll just pour some water on the windshield and then do the wiper. It immediately froze.
You should have put that Timmy's coffee over the windshield. That would have been a better idea. I've totally done that.
I'm like, okay, so now I can't see.
You're like, bad idea. Okay, all right, moving on.
My windshield's covered in frozen water. Trent hands me an ice scraper. Like, we're just laughing at this point because it's like
there's nothing else you can do.
Yeah, everything's crazy. We haven't slept in days. Like, we're finally in Red Lake. We're like, all right, like we made it. We got here. And I'm like, good thing, one thing about growing up poor is like, how to do things, right? So I know how to like change out windshield wiper fluid and pop my hood and all that good stuff. So I was like, all right, let's turn on the defrosters, get the windshield defrosted, got it work, got him to the billet house, unload all of his stuff, get him to practice on time. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I got him dropped off. He's where he needs to be on time. I'm going to go to the gas station, fill up his gas tank, get some windshield wiper fluid all that good stuff. So I get to the gas station and I get out and I'm like looking at the pump and there's no credit card readers. And I'm like, how do I pay for gas? And this girl's like, oh, don't you know? I do it for you. And I was like, what? And like,
It was a full service gas station.
yeah, so they do all the services for you. And I was like, so how do I pay? And she's like, go inside. And I was like, oh, okay. So I go inside.
And we wonder why the world looks at us the way that they do.
I know. It's so bad.
Great representation of the USA, Trish.
I know.
Well done.
So I go inside, I get my windshield wiper fluid, all that good stuff. And then I'm like trying to, because Andy has the same Jeep as Trent has. So I put the windshield wiper fluid in and I went to go run it. It still wasn't running because it was out of windshield wiper fluid. It wasn't frozen.
Yeah.
And so like I'm trying to FaceTime Andy, but there's no service in the whole area because there's like the population of
5.
yeah, it's 4,700 people, and then now Trent, so they have 4,701 people.
It's literally just the hockey players and their families.
Yeah, exactly. And so all the hockey players, they do what's called billeting. They live with other families in the city, and then they play junior A hockey for the hockey team. And the city actually just came around in the 90s. They found gold, and they started a gold mine, and then they built this little teeny tiny city. And it kind of reminds you of like the cities back in the Westerns where it's just like the one little road, and there's like the general store. And
I
like,
watched
the
Dr.
pharmacy.
Quinn. I know what you mean.
Yeah, so that's basically what it looks like. Like after his billet mom's house, there's like no other houses. That's it. That's all there is. So I'm trying to like
You
get
like
the
her?
windshield.
Are you gonna trust her with your son?
Yeah, you know what's so funny? So we went to a team potluck and they took a picture of us, and I have to show you the picture because she actually looks more like my sister than any of my sisters do.
Really?
She looks like facial similarity, same color hair, same style, same everything, and I was like, this is weird.
Trent's gonna be just fine.
Yeah, it was great. I was talking to her. I was like, all right, this is going to sound like a funny question, but like, do you guys have Amazon? And she's like, oh, I Amazon all the time. I'm like, oh, we just became best friends.
Did you ask her to do karate in the garage with you?
I did. I was like, this is good. Now I know we're okay. So back to the gas station, though. There was one more debacle at the gas station because I got the windshield wiper fluided, and then like because it's so cold, like all the tire sensors were on for his air. So I was like, pull his car over to the air machine. Well, you needed loonies for the air machine, so I couldn't get air in his tires because I didn't have any Canadian money. So I go across the street to the bank, and I like walk in. I'm like, hey, will you take this American money and give me some Canadian money? And she's like, oh, you gotta open an account. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. And she's like, yeah, you gotta have an account. And I'm like, I literally like I'm only here for 24 hours. And she's like, oh, why? And so then I have to like unpack the whole story for
Just
the
to
bank
get
teller.
some flipping air in the tires.
To get some air in the
Did
tires.
she give you the money?
She did give me the money.
Aw,
Yeah.
Did she make you open an account?
She made me give her my license, and I don't think she ever gave it back. I got home and I didn't have my license anymore.
Are you freaking?
So I got the money, but I think she kept my driver's license because I don't
Mind
have
you,
it
you're like,
anymore.
I need a driver's license because I'm now getting on a plane to go somewhere else.
Yeah, so so I couldn't get the air in the tires, but I did get the money.
How did you get back to customs without your license? You had.
I have a passport. Yep. So I have a passport. So I got through because I used my passport on the airplane. But after I went to the bank and got the money and all of that, I went to go to the pharmacy because Trent needed this wrap stuff, and all of the medical supplies were in French. Because they're French Canadian. So
Right.
I'm like,
and we speak Spanish.
yeah. So I'm trying to like read these things, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like just everything was just so crazy. So luckily after that, it was the team potluck, and I got to meet his billet mom and meet
some
all the
good
people.
food.
The food was great. Everybody was so laid back and nice, and I was like, oh.
Dude, Canadians are super nice.
So nice. And they were giving me tips of like how I could fly in and fly out, because the only way I made this work was I drove with him, and then the next morning after the potluck, so I was only there for 24 hours, the next morning I had to fly on 3 planes to get home. So I do the potluck, go back, go to sleep, wake up the next morning, and I have an email that says my flight's on time. So I get up, I start getting ready. Well, first I go to brush my teeth and jump in the shower, and I look at my phone, and I don't know, like my brain wasn't working because I was so tired. It was 7:15 and my flight was at 8:35.
No.
And I'm like, and I had laid in bed, like just chilling because in my mind I had time. And I'm like, I go to brush my teeth and I looked at the clock and I'm like, what am I doing? Like,
Yeah.
I should be at the airport.
You subconsciously did not want to leave your baby in the middle of the frozen tundra.
I know. And so I like hurry up. I like run down. I'm like, try and take me to the airport. Take me to the airport. I get to the airport and it's like the size of this room, first of all. Their airport is the size of this room. There's nobody in it, 0 people, except the one worker. So I walk up and he's like, hey, you didn't get the email? And I go, yeah, I got the email. Flight's on time. And he goes, no, it's delayed. It won't be here for 2 hours.
No.
And I'm like, I was just like, whatever. Like, I had already planned on being in airports because the flights that I got were the only flights to get because I had to get them in 24 hours.
Right.
So they sucked. Like, I was going to be in the airport all day anyways, and I had layovers in between each of them. And I was like, well, will I make my second flight? And he's like, oh, yeah, you'll be fine. And I'm like, okay. So I just sat in the airport for 2 hours. No big deal. However,
luckily you were alone. There wasn't anybody smelly next to you or coughing next to you.
What did suck is the vending machines did not take credit cards, and I still did not have Canadian money because I left the Canadian money for Trent. So I couldn't get any water. I couldn't get any food. I couldn't get anything. So I sit down and he brings me this boarding pass. No joke. It was handwritten.
Stop.
He handwrote my boarding pass.
Aww.
And,
you have to keep that forever.
Yeah.
You need a little box for like this whole adventure. And
It
just
was.
keep all that stuff.
It was such an adventure. So finally it gets around time and he's like, he just calls me. He's like, Trisha, come on. And so I walk out. It's just me. I walk out on the tarmac. Oh my gosh, Kylie, they're spinning the propellers on the plane by hand. And I'm like, I'm going to die.
You're like, I'm not going to make it. That's right.
So I get on this plane and she's like,
say a lot of prayers.
Oh yeah. She's like, put your phone on airplane mode. I'm like, yes, ma'am. First flight I'm ever like, absolutely. I'm turning it off. And I was like, she goes, all right. So life's vest under there. There's a fire extinguisher. There's this exits. You won't need any of that. And then she goes and sits next to the pilot. Like I see her and the pilot. They're 2 seats up for me.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there and I was like, okay, this is fine. And then we get up in the air and it's like a blizzard, so you can't even, I don't even know how he's seen. I guess like their radar, yeah, because you can't see out of the actual plane. I'm like, this is just super creepy.
Like that's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. So I fly the little teeny tiny plane to, where was my first stop?
The medium airport.
Yeah, to the medium airport in Winnipeg. So I went to Winnipeg after that, and I got on another plane.
Could you use your credit card in Winnipeg to get some food?
I could. So that was really good. And then I flew from there to Toronto. Toronto is big. There's 2 million people in Toronto.
Oh yeah, Toronto's huge.
And their airport is gigantic. So I flew from Winnipeg, got some food finally, got to Toronto, and I had like a little layover in Toronto. So I was just
Toronto
chilling.
is so fun.
Yeah. Well, they put, if you're going from Toronto to the US, like the gate for it is like this super teeny tiny one in the basement, like way off to nowhere.
They don't like us.
No.
They don't want anyone coming here.
So that was fine though. So I got on the flight from Toronto to Detroit. I finally got home. It was like, I don't know, 11 or something at night. And what
day is it now?
So Monday was practice. So Tuesday I flew home. So I got home late Tuesday night, and then Wednesday morning I woke up with a raging headache because I hadn't slept in like 5 days. And I had to pack because we were going to Hawaii on Thursday morning for me to run a marathon. Yeah. So I hurried up. I woke up with this headache. I was like, you know what? I'm going to the car. I went to the chiropractor, got my self-care in. We've talked about that in our past podcast. Self-care is necessary.
Did your headache go away after the chiropractor?
Chiropractor, needling, drank electrolytes, did some yoga, and like a new woman by the end of the day, but didn't get any sleep again because I had to wake up in the morning and fly to Hawaii. So we got on a plane at DTW in the morning, flew all day long, had a layover at LAX, and then got to Hawaii. And my marathon partner's like, okay, I want to wake up early in the morning and go to the expo and get our packets. And I'm like, I can't commit to that.
Alicia's, we've had her on the show before. She's a super understanding, like totally normal human.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did end up waking up though because I was in Hawaii for 12 or 13 days and I never readjusted to Hawaii time. Like I would get dead tired at 4 p.m. and then I was up at like 3 a.m.
Like, and we're done.
Yeah. But it worked out well because I got to sleep. We got the expo, got our packets. And then on Sunday, we ran the Hawaii Marathon, the Honolulu Marathon, which was just absolutely incredibly amazing.
I saw some of your pictures. The scenery was just, I can't even imagine in person.
Yeah, because like pictures don't even do Hawaii justice. It's so beautiful. And I've been a lot of places, but it's like hard to explain how just beautiful it is there.
Yeah.
And we were up at 3:30 in the morning because the marathon actually started at 5. And they do that because the heat gets so bad later in the day. They want as many people as possible to be done as early as possible. But
lucky for you, you were on Michigan time.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It was 8 o'clock for you.
It worked out, and I got to watch the sunrise, and it was like this
while you're just cruising along.
Pink and orange sky over the ocean. It was so beautiful, and we ran up this mountain called Diamond Head, and it was absolutely just so gorgeous. It was the hardest run of my life because you're running up a literal mountain.
Yeah.
And then you get to altitude, and the air is very thin there, so you
Right.
can't breathe very well. But it was like by the end, it was just like, wow, like we did that. Like we just ran 26.2 miles up and down mountains.
And then Trisha collected her medal, took a bunch of Facebook pictures, and promptly collapsed.
So I actually didn't collapse. So I felt it took me like 3 hours to be able to like get my physical self together, like get the blood to rush out of my feet back into my body, shower and all of that good stuff. But then we actually walked. It was very painful, but we walked to my marathon partner Alicia's hotel and went to a luau.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. And so then we refueled and ate. And then the next morning I woke up and I felt great. Like I was fully recovered. I woke up before Angelina
Was your
and
Whoop
Dave.
band all green?
My root band was yellow, which was still good. That's
middle of the
average.
road.
Yep. That's average.
As my
recovery.
husband would say, fair to Midland.
Yes. And I went to breakfast by myself, watched the sunrise again over, and then we flew to the Big Island, and we got to enjoy some days there. And yeah, it was amazing. It was an amazing journey. Had some issues with Delta on the way back, but again, like kind of went through the same thing where everything is figureoutable.
Like after the ride home from Canada, nothing can faze me.
Well, we had booked our flights through Delta and they were using Hawaiian Airlines and they were like, oh yeah, Delta hasn't paid us for your ticket. You can't get on the plane. And I'm like, look, we getting on this plane because I am going home. Today.
Trisha's like, they call me Fafo. You want to do this?
Yeah.
You want to do this with me?
Yeah. So after 3 hours on the phone with Delta, we did end up getting on our plane. We got home. They lost our baggage. I came back.
That's not the first time that you've had that.
I know. I came back. But again, like I was coming back to the airport to pick up Trent because he got to come home for Christmas break. So it worked out fine. I came back to the airport, picked up my luggage. Like
Got your baby.
Yep. Got Trent. Like, so everything worked out. But it was one of those things where like looking back, like all of those things, I should have just been like, this is obviously we're not supposed to do this, right? Like I could have taken all that as signs to like quit, give up. This isn't for us. Like deer are trying to kill us. Like
The vampire deer.
Canada doesn't want to let us in. My flights are a mess. Like
Canada doesn't want to let us out.
Yep. Obviously this isn't for us, but I just kept going to the next thing, go to the next thing. So like when things get hard, instead of focusing on the hard things, just what's the next action, right?
Well, could you imagine how much harder mentally and emotionally, and then of course physically, it would have been had you just had this super pessimistic attitude? Like I fall into it, as you know very well. I am very much like, all right, well, looks like this is going to be delayed. Oh, looks like we don't have a bed to sleep in. And instead you were just like, just get it done. Just get it done. Just get it done. And that's one thing I'm looking to cultivate when we do our 75 hard is just get it done.
Yes, it will. It gives you so much grit and fortitude. It's amazing. So
thanks for sharing all of that with us.
Yeah.
I know it was a long journey. I'm ready for a nap. So I hope you listeners enjoyed hearing all of that and at least feel, not so alone when it comes to life throwing chaos at you. Just know that you can continue on. You can soldier on and just carry on because life's always going to be hard. There's always going to be something, but when you have a good perspective, it doesn't have to be a hard thing or a tragic thing. So thanks for checking in with us. Subscribe, like, and share. Come back next Thursday for a fresh episode of Elite Life.
Bye.
We thank you so much for joining us today on the Elite Life with Trish and Kylie. Be sure to share the episode with a friend so we can continue bringing you more great tips on grit, grace, and real estate. You can also connect with us on Instagram, Facebook. We hope the ideas we share continue to help you build an empire and leave a legacy.